Oh, okay. All righty. So we can't talk about you, right?
No, we just got the BQ rating back.
Okay.
Treadway, remember him?
Oh, yes, Fred Treadway. Fred owned cars that finished 1-2 at Indy, and he was a little salty. Thank you. Oh, now, the guy screws up one time. Yeah, poor Fred's sitting here, and we went to
3 minutes until showtime.
Right in his lap.
Who did that?
A guy named Fred Treadway. His cars finished 1-2 at Indy. Can you imagine that? First and second, Ari Lyondike and Scott Goodyear in 1997. Yep. Oh, now you heard about Hillary Clinton. She wanted to apply for her Indy Racing League driver's license, and they turned her down because they said they already had one Lyondike. Isn't that terrible? When Bergeron calls in, we can. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's usually about 20 minutes after the hour, huh?
Don't forget, Andy's watching from Germany.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
You've got somebody from Germany watching?
Yeah, isn't that some stuff? Yeah, and then there's another guy that wrote in last week from the UK, so that he watches every week.
2 minutes until
We're
showtime.
getting to be international. I'm going to have to hit him up for a raise, you know?
Okay, folks, we're going to be live in 2 minutes.
All right, here we go.
Sound check with me. I need an applause. On the count of 3, give me your best applause.
You enjoy this, right?
Hmm?
You enjoy this?
Oh, man, it's wonderful.
It's gotta be.
1,
Yeah.
2, 3.
Man, that's pretty good. Not bad. I don't think you ought to touch it. Yeah, you might have to get real close here if you can. All right. There we go. Need a little hand there?
I'm about my bugsy. I'm I used to be 5'6".
5'6".
I used to be 6'7". I kept hitting the wall. Now I'm 5'4".
Yeah.
That's what I was just saying. I used to be 5'6". No, 6'5". I kept hitting the wall.
1 minute until showtime.
Oh, man. Yep. Oh, gosh. You know what I might do if I were you? I might put that on the other side of the mic because I am a klutz.
I don't really need it.
You sure? Oh.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
Now, from the world's most famous beach, from where beach racing began, it's the Legends of Racing radio show. Live from racing's North Turn Beach Bar and Grill in Ponce Inlet, Florida. The Legends of Racing radio show. And your host, Buz McKim.
Oh, most impressive. What a crowd, what a crowd. Yes. Do we have any door prizes for them there, Poobah? Yeah, okay. Oh, they get to return next week. That's a deal. Okay. All right. So, hey, greetings from the rather windy world's most famous beach, Ponce Inlet, Florida. We're broadcasting from the wonderful, fantastic, and Disney World for Adults kind of North Turn restaurant. And we're having a grand old time, and we're saluting the Northeast today. We have... there we go. Yeah. And there's so many Jersey folks here. I'm surprised the sheriff isn't in here checking IDs. But anyway, we are so delighted to have two of the absolute. We have a third one, but we tell you about that later. But two of the true legends of Northeastern racing. Right over here to my left is Mr. Bill Harman. There we go. And to my far left is Mr. Ray Miller. And two members of the New England Auto Racing Hall of Fame. We'll go into that a little bit deeper. But, man, you guys, you came up the tough way. The competition in your day was just beyond belief. And you guys triumphed. You kicked butt, took names, and moved on, right?
It certainly was tough.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, did you all do strictly asphalt, or did you do some dirt, too?
I did mostly asphalt. I know Ray didn't, but I did.
Mm-hmm.
I ran, well, when I first started, Stafford Speedway, certainly a well-known track. When I first started my first year, 1966, Stafford was a dirt track. And I raced Stafford for the full season, and in 67 they paved it. And I did run a little more dirt afterwards, Fonda Speedway, Lebanon Valley, New York, but primarily I was asphalt most of my career.
And especially back in that era, the dirt, man, there was some competition there, wasn't there?
Well, there sure was, Buzz, but it was a different deal then. You know, you could run the same car, asphalt, blacktop, you change the tires and away you went. It wasn't a real deal. And then they started to make specific cars for just asphalt or just dirt. So I kind of got away from it at that time.
Yeah, and now, Bill, I saw a picture of you the other day sitting in Teddy Marsh's number 55, that little 37 coupe. I guess with 37, wasn't it?
It was a 36.
Okay.
No, excuse me, it was a 37.
Okay, and it had a big block, and it had fuel injection, and those things must have been absolutely monsters, weren't they?
That was 504 inches on alcohol.
Oh, man.
Ted and Linda Marsh's car.
Uh-huh.
That's the car I finished sixth in the nation with Teddy in 70 or 71.
Oh, my gosh.
So didn't Ray. Ray was a top 10 finish in the nation also.
Yeah, really. And did you guys run similar cars?
No, my car was a left-handed car, we called it. Like Charlie Desanbach had the same situation.
Right.
We drove the car from the left side because it was an offset car. The train lane run down the right side of the car, so we had to sit on the left.
Oh, okay. I got you.
It was quite a car.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now, Ray, you actually started. Did you start out in open wheel cars? I think your history is in open wheel.
Well,
isn't it?
I grew up in as an infant, 5, 6 years old. My dad had Curtis Craft midget offies, and those were beautiful cars. They still are today.
Yep.
But as a youngster, I grew up. He raced. He was an owner. He never drove, but he raced cars late 40s into the early 50s, and so I was inbred in auto racing, really.
Yeah. And so you ran midgets and sprints?
Well, I started out Dad was totally against me getting near a midget. I had interest, but back in the day, Buzz, those cars, your roll bar was your head.
Yeah.
And he traveled in the 40s and early 50s, and they lost a lot of. He saw a lot of guys pass by the way because of fatalities, and he didn't want any part of a midget for me. So I got involved with the stock cars, and of course, then he supported that.
Yeah. Did you ever desire to run any open wheel stuff there, Bill?
Oh, certainly, yes. I ran a midget a few times. I also ran, it was Armin Harley's
really?
super modified car
Oh,
at Thompson
my
one
gosh.
time. And
Oswego?
no, I was at Thompson, and I says, I can't steer this thing. He said to me, Armin Harley said, you're not going fast enough.
Oh, man. Those guys are Dick Tracy brave, aren't they?
Well, he's something else.
Oh, my gosh. And I think about some of the stuff that your buddy Bentley Warren has driven over the years.
Bentley.
I mean, those things were basically motors with a seat and 4 wheels, right?
They certainly are. Bentley was the best.
Oh, my gosh. Well, we're hoping to get him on here one of these days. We might lose our PG rating, but we're going to give it a try, though. Never can do. There's another guy here we might lose our PG rating on, too. We'll tell you more about that in a little while. But what was the highlight of your career, Billy?
Well, I have to say in 1964, I drove this L&M car, which was named the most unique modified in the country. It was a 6-cylinder Chevy against the V8s.
Really?
And we killed them.
Oh, my gosh.
I won 13 shows that year, 4 of them being open comp shows, but it was just, that's when the 327 was the engine to beat. Well, we had a 292 six-cylinder that was 330 inches.
Oh, my.
And it was by far the most unique car in the country. That was established by a USAC official, Lenny Poe.
Oh, really?
And it was quite a race car. It weighed 1,700-pound modified car.
Holy cow. And I understand you had a novel way of stopping the car. Is that right?
I had a handbrake in that car. I drove it like a sprint car, I guess. The engine was laying sideways under the chassis with 3 Buick carburetors. It was a 1,700-pound modified car.
Holy cow. I imagine that thing would torque up pretty quick, too, wouldn't it?
Oh,
Wow. Now, who would have ever thought?
90-inch wheelbase, and if I wasn't careful, sometimes getting out of the second turn, I could get the front wheels off the ground.
Oh, man. That's outrageous. Well, I know a lot of folks kind of tend to sell six-bangers short, but years ago, back in the 60s, there was a fellow that ran locally here who had we call it the phone booth. It was a 25 Ford hi-hat body, and he had a slant 6 in that thing, and it would eat up those small block Chevys on a quarter-mile track.
You could, yes, you could.
Yeah, and they had to put a bounty on them, too. So,
Well, my car was the L&M. The reason being L&M was 2 Irishmen from Poland, Stanley Laskowski and Stash Mezieski. That's the L&M.
yeah, and they celebrated St. Patrick's Day, right?
Oh, they were two great car builders, and they had. Well, when the V8 was the car to beat with Billy Slater.
Oh, yeah.
That was it. Was the same crew there that was on that
Amazing.
V8 car for Billy.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, it was.
I'll be darned. Isn't that something? Well, now, how about you, Ray? What was your high point?
Well, my real big win was unforgettable win. It was 1981, the Thompson 300. Back in those days, you used to get 100 modifieds to qualify.
Holy cow.
50 cars started. It was who's who in the field. Bugsy was there. Everybody was there. And started 19th, 300 lapper. And I was able to chase Bodine down at the end. With about 20 laps to go, I passed him and won the 300. Paid $10,000 cash, and that was
nice.
That was hard to forget about.
Yeah. Now, was Bodine driving the Armstrong car?
He was driving the what was known as the White Tornado, the Billy Taylor white number 99.
Right.
And
That's right.
he was unstoppable, but he had his right rear tire was going bad on him. He had used it up, and I was able to chase him down and get by him late in the race.
In fact, I believe that car is sitting in Ray Evernham's shop right now.
It is, and we raced against that car many times before Jeff came down south, and it was a top runner with Billy Taylor turning the wrenches.
You know, how about your ultimate goal? Did you ever want to go into NASCAR or Indy or anything like that? Either one of you guys?
Well, personally, from my perspective, Buzz, I had a full-time job. I worked Pratt Whitney, the jet engine folks in East Hartford. I had a mid-management job, and it was a good career. So I really had no interest in leaving my full-time job. But I will say this, Buzz, even in those days, working full-time, we ran as many nights as 4 nights a week. We would have a Wednesday an open comp show. Friday would either be Stafford or Albany, Saratoga, New York, Riverside Park on Saturday, Thompson Sunday. So we kept it going. I mean, I raced enough being part-time.
And, man, they used to pack in the crowds, too, didn't they?
They did. You couldn't believe the crowds we used to get at the track. Stafford Speedway, they would have them sitting on the home stretch under the speedway. Under the speedway.
And, you know, there was just something about the fans in the Northeast that, I mean, they were rabid fans. You know, they were, like, everybody had a fan club. It didn't matter who you were. If you drove the water truck, you had a fan club, pretty much. Yeah, how about you, Billy?
Yeah, same thing. I wanted to go racing after that series I had in 64, excuse me. I had a few offers to go run NASCAR, which I wanted to go, and I was promised a speedway car, and we had 2 cars to go touring with. So I would run Old Bridge, New Jersey. I would run Utica, Rome, Plattsburgh, New York, Albany, Saratoga, and down in Jersey, went to Jersey, Old Bridge quite a bit.
Oh, boy.
But we had a good time with it, and I was somewhat successful doing that. I did run a few of them, but we raced with guys like Denny Giroux, upstate New York, Denny Giroux, and J.P. Gabbana, and names like that, the Canadian guys. But we still had a share of Pete Hamilton, Donnie McTavish, you know, one of the greatest in upstate New York, was just outstanding. Charland.
Oh, yeah. The champ.
The champ was the champ, and he let you know it. And,
Yeah. How about Shoemaker, those guys?
Oh, Kenny Shoemaker, ran a Kenny Shoemaker all the time, yes.
Yep.
And,
Did anybody ever run dirty? I mean, the statute of limitations is over. You can talk about it.
no, well, there was a couple of guys in Connecticut that weren't as clean as they could be, but most of the guys ran it clean.
Okay.
Leo Cleary was
Oh,
somebody
boy.
you didn't want to mess with,
Yeah.
but I never had trouble with Leo because
Yeah.
I never gave Leo a bad time.
My mom loved Leo.
Everybody loved Leo.
He was quite a guy.
Our good friend.
You know, he won a lottery down here one time.
Yes, he did.
It wasn't the big one, but it was good enough to keep him happy for a while. you
I
know?
have a picture of me and Leo and his wife in that lotto, and Leo won $50,000.
That's not too shabby.
The next day, he got a call from Jimmy Spencer,
Oh,
and Jimmy says, "I see you win on the lotto." He said to Jimmy, he says, "Jimmy, I didn't like you then, and I don't like you now."
Mr. Excitement himself, right?
Mr. Excitement.
That was a rough bunch.
It was a rough one.
If you got into a little altercation with Jimmy, you had to fight him, his father, his brother, and whatever scoundrels they brought to the racetrack, right?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, rough crowd, yeah. How about you, Ray?
As far as I missed the question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Get back to the question.
Did you ever come down here during February and run the local tracks here?
No, furthest I got south to run. I used to love going there. We always had fun and always raced. And they raced the opener in the spring and the fall, being Martinsville.
Oh, boy.
And that's they used to run, of course, the twins, the sportsmen's at the time, and
Yep.
and the modifieds. And that's as far south as I got, but it was always a great time coming to Martinsville.
Yeah, that was really kind of like the Daytona 500 for those classes, weren't they?
For our modifieds at the time, it was, Buzz, yes.
Yeah, and anybody would show up. And Mr. Earls always treated everybody well, Clay Earls.
They loved the Northerners coming down because, you know, the Civil War was over, but to many of the fans in the grandstand, it still was Civil War, the North versus the South, and they used to play that up. And so it worked out well for everybody.
Oh, yeah. Clay always liked to pack heat, you might say. All those old promoters, you know, Mr. Staley and Paul Sawyer from Richmond, they're from the old school.
Exactly.
When you had to kind of protect yourself against the rowdy race drivers. Yeah. And a friend of mine used to work for Clay Earls at Martinsville, and he said, "Are you dressed today, Captain?" He said, "Yes, sir." One time he changed some rules that was going to affect, or Bill France Sr. Changed some rules that was going to affect Clay Earls and the races that he ran there. So Clay came to Daytona with fire in his eye. And he got a meeting with Bill France, got up into Bill's office, pulled his pistol out and laid it on the desk. He said, "You think we're going to be able to get this thing worked out, Bill?" And he knew that Clay loved seafood. He said, "Well, before we start talking, Clay, why don't we go get some shrimp?" And everything worked out after that. But those guys are not afraid to let you know where they stood, right?
Right.
Did you ever have to fight with any promoters, Bill?
Promoters? No, I had very good luck with the promoters, especially Don Honig from Thompson Speedway.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
The promoters were good to me. They
Yeah.
were very good. We had Bob Saul as our
Oh, boy, what a guy.
Eastern representative, and Bob was so good to all of us. He stood up for us, and maybe times he didn't have to, but he did.
You know, Bob drove a stock car in the first stock car race in Daytona Beach in 1936. And he ran Indy a few times.
He ran Indy, yes, he
Yeah,
did.
yeah. How about you, Ray? Did you ever have to go head-to-head with anybody?
No, I had, well, a few drivers, the promoters, I got along real good. I had a few things with drivers, but that was very few.
Yeah, really. Well, you know, it seems to me that back in that day, the drivers respected the other guy's equipment a little bit more than they do today. Do you feel that way?
I feel that way. I really do. Back then, when we first started, every car owner built his own car from scratch. He went to the junkyard. He got a frame. He built his engine. Every car was kind of unique. You had a specification you had to meet, but all the cars were unique. And what's happened in later years is the cars are all the same. There's not much difference in any of the modifieds now. They're all pretty much the same as far as asphalt racing goes.
Yeah, they're kind of cookie cutter now, aren't they?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
And it seems like there's no, I don't know, there's no innovation anymore. You just go down and buy what you need, bolt it on, and go racing.
Right, right.
Yeah. Geez, I wonder if half these guys even know how to weld. It's hard to say. Just saying, you know. But yeah, we kind of were brought up in that era too, and there was just a resourcefulness that you don't see. And you know, of course, even with the big boys, there's no resourcefulness anymore. Right. You don't have the guys, the smoky eunuchs, and the guys, the wizards that are always coming up with something better.
Right.
They're restricted so badly. Well, we're going to take a break just for a minute or two to have a word from one of our lovely sponsors, and we'll be back in just a minute.
The caution flag is out. Time for a break. We'll be right back with the Legends of Racing radio show. Welcome to Homewood Suites by Hilton in Daytona Beach. You're right in the middle of all the action. Daytona International Speedway, the airport, One Daytona, Florida's newest entertainment and retail destination, and of course, the world's most famous beach. You'll love our newly remodeled 1- and 2-bedroom suites, along with our popular King Studios. You won't need your full kitchen, as Homewood Suites Daytona serves up complimentary breakfast and evening social. It's like home away from home. Go to HomewoodDaytona.com for Homewood Suites by Hilton in Daytona Beach. We're back from where it all began, racing's original North Turn Beach Bar and Grill. The Legends of Racing radio show continues with your host, Buz McKim.
Thank you, folks. This segment is being brought to you locally by Cray Web Design, and we have to give a special shout-out to Frau Earl in Germany, all the way from Germany. Isn't that something? I wonder if it's snowing. She wanted it to snow so bad. So, yeah, okay, okay. Go ahead and text your answer, please, and let us know if you've drank too much since you've been there. Just checking. But anyway, she'll be back here in a couple weeks in our audience, and we want to say hello to her. But anyway, we have a question from the audience. Oh, I do, yeah. Here we go. He's coming on up to the mic. Should be interesting. I believe this is John. Is that right? All right. Hello, John.
How you doing?
Doing good.
This is for Ray. I just wanted to know how you keep the cost down on all your teams.
John's talking, Buzz, and I don't know if you know it. I own some midget race cars now. I own them together. So keeping costs down is not easy. You try to spread the hurt. I have 4 cars running dirt.
Oh, wow.
And there's no easy way. I mean, you have to, whatever it takes to keep the cars going. And I've been lucky to have guys keep my cars out of trouble, so not a lot of major expense for rebuilds or anything. And the midgets are a little more economical to run than perhaps what stock cars are today. So it's a challenge, but we make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's always been a problem, though, keeping the cost down, right?
Of course, and it costs, and as we know today in modified and of course Cup, the costs have just escalated immensely, and it's not an easy thing to turn the tide once the tide gets out.
I imagine it gets a little scary sometimes when NASCAR comes along and says, hey, we figured out a way to save you guys money. Yeah. You know, you got to watch out. It's almost like the government, you know, like we're from the government and we're here to help you. It doesn't usually work out that way. Yeah. I'm sure they're trying. But the guys with the money are always going to spend the money no matter what, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So he who has gets. And my dad used to say, the rich get richer and the poor get children. That's what he said. So I guess there's something to that. I don't know. But, yeah, we, you know, you were talking about some of the folks that you ran with. And you didn't have to just run against the Northern boys, which were stout in their own mind or in their own regard. But how about some of those Southern boys who used to come up and run with you?
Ray Hendricks. Ray was always the guy, top of the list, along with Gene Bergen. Gene was a hometown boy, but Ray always knew Gene was in the audience. He knew Bugsy was there. He knew Ray was there. And, of course, Donnie McTavish and Pete Hamilton and Richie Evans and Jerry Cook, they were always there. And it was...
Oh, Jerry, he was double tough, wasn't he?
Very tough. And Bobby Santos, another guy, he was just outstanding.
Yep.
So we had the best of the best, I believe.
Oh, you're not kidding. I mean, to triumph in that group is really a pretty amazing thing.
Certainly was.
It's something that y'all really should be proud of, for sure. Do you feel that Ray Hendricks should be in the NASCAR Hall of Fame?
There's no question about it.
Yes.
I think I look back at my career and who I ran against. I ran against the best. Like Lou Lazaro, upstate New York.
Oh,
I ran
boy.
a lot with Lou and all that gang up there. But when Ray Hendricks came to the racetrack, you know he was there. We went to Trenton every year at Trenton. It was going to be Lou, maybe Richie, could be Bugsy, could be Freddie DeSaro. Ray Miller ran good. Jerry Cook ran good there.
Oh, yeah.
But Jerry Dostey is another guy that's not mentioned often, but Jerry was tough.
Yeah, he came down here and ran the road course a few times.
Yes, he did. Jerry was very good.
Yeah, I don't know if any of you remember when they ran the modifieds down here back in the 70s, but that was quite an adventure.
Unbelievable.
And I noticed that when they first came down there, most of the cars were kind of like bricks. And the more they ran, the more aerodynamic they became, the more slick they became. And that first race, Paul Newman came down.
Paul Newman.
And he was running a little modified out of Connecticut.
Yes,
and he had made some kind of wise crack about NASCAR racing. So Jack Duffy had the last old pre-war coupe that ran at Daytona. It was, I think it was an old Buzzy Ruderman car. And going into the first turn, going into the infield on that in that race, I think it was in '74, he gave old Paul Newman just a little bit of a tap and spun him out. And he said, I don't care who you are, you're not going to talk about NASCAR like that. All right, here we go. Do we have someone on the line here? Hello?
You do.
Oh, my gosh. Would this happen to be Dr. Dick Berggren?
Let me check. I'm going to pull up my driver's license. Yes.
Hey, Dr. Dick. How about that? Multifaceted, I would say. You've done just about everything but clean the men's room, haven't you?
Oh, no, I've done that too.
Oh, have you? It keeps you humble,
absolutely. Yeah, back in 1972, Lou Boyd, Bruce Cullen, and I rented Stafford Speedway, and we cooked up a race we called the Spring Sizzler.
Oh, yes.
It was an enormous success. I mean, it was literally standing room only. The state police made us shut down ticket sales.
Holy cow.
And Bill Slater, Wild Bill Slater, the guy from the V8 car, was manager of the track at that time. And he decided that the following day, to make sure that our success didn't go to our heads, he had all three of us clean, not just the toilets in the ladies' room.
Now, that's something that Bill France Sr. would do to his family. He made sure everybody was humble and started them out as low as he possibly could. And it worked out pretty well.
And it's a very good strategy. I think if you let yourself get carried away with whatever successes you might have in life, you're going to have not too many successes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we felt that you were so appropriate to be calling in today because we have two of the absolute superstars sitting here, a couple of Hall of Fame members. We have Ray Miller and Billy Harman, and I wonder if you could put their careers in perspective.
Yeah, I think I can. And let me start with Ray Miller, who was always, just Mr. Personality and just absolutely an incredible guy. People just looked up to him. He always said the right thing. He always did the right thing. He was always cool. He never crashed anybody, never spun anybody out, won a lot of races. Just Mr. Perfection. Harman, on the other hand, he was a party goer, hanging out with George Pendergast, and he was having a heck of a good time for himself. And I do have photographs of him upside down at Thompson Speedway, so we know that he managed to accomplish that. But he was a good racer, too. Won a bunch of races against some very tough competition. So they were both winners, but very different in personality.
Yeah, well, we're honored to have them on board here today, and we're just having a grand time with these guys going down memory lane and getting their opinions on things. You guys have any questions for the doc?
Dick, it's Ray. I see we're going to have a dirt track up in New Hampshire. How's it coming?
If he's asking, I can't hear him.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that's the mic that's messed up. Yeah, Ray said that he understands that there's going to be a dirt track up in New Hampshire. Hello. Did you forget to pay the bill? Is it okay? Okay, yeah, there's going to be a dirt track in New Hampshire, and he's wondering how it's going. We lost him. Darn, we're just getting fired up. I hope he'll call back. Yeah, good old Dick. He's the man. Yes, indeed. Well, we're talking about the New England Auto Racing Hall of Fame, and let's see. Let me tell you some of these guys that these fellows are associated with. Ray went into the Hall of Fame in 2002. Some of the folks that were in his class were Nick Fenora, great open-wheel guy, later an official with USAC, and flagman, all that sort of thing, yeah. Ken Squire, everybody knows Ken Squire, the golden voice. Bill Wimble, one of the greatest modified guys, and one of the classiest guys. And no matter where he was, he always wore a bright red blazer. I mean, you knew that he was in town.
Classy guy.
Yeah, very classy. And Phil Walters. Now, he was one of the premier sports car drivers back in the 50s. And he quit after the big accident in Le Mans in 55 when so many people were lost. But he really kind of started out in midgets right after the war. His real name was, Phil Walters. He came from a money family. They didn't like the fact that their boy was out there running with those ruffians. And so he raced under the name of Ted Tappet and made a name for himself there. And then also Johnny Thompson, who was just amazing. You know, open-wheel driver, ran Indianapolis several times, ran Daytona here when they ran the only IndyCar race. But, I mean, one of the real superstars. So also involved in that class was Mr. Ray Miller. So he definitely has some good company that he was in. And then in 2004, here comes Mr. Harman. And one of the guys that went in with him was the great Charlie Jarzambek. Lenny Bowler, who was one of the greatest builders, he had that raggedy old number 3 that it looked kind of bad, but it certainly ran good. I think one of our guests here was probably part of that. He kind of was a throwback to the old Pappy Huff days. Pappy was a guy whose cars were so ragged. They were 5 midgets, and they were known as the 5 little pigs because they were so scroungy. He didn't care about aesthetics. And Lenny was kind of that same way, but his cars couldn't be beat. Sammy Packard, who was one of the founders of NASCAR and one of my old buddies, he was in that class, along with Fred Frame, who was the 1932 Indy 500 winner. That's a pretty big company to be in. Yeah. And then my mom's favorite of all time, Bill Schindler, who is considered the greatest midget driver to ever turn a wheel, and he did it all with one leg.
One leg Bill, yeah.
One leg Bill, yeah. And he also ran, along with Bob Saul, that first stock car race in Daytona Beach in 1936. So, you know, these are just not run-of-the-mill guys. These guys are superstars. How about a round for our guys here? Yeah. I think it's just great that you have taken the time to come down here and regale us with your stories. It's just amazing. I think we're going to go ahead and have another real quick break. Oh, one more minute? Okay. You want to hear some bird calls? You want to hear a joke? I heard a great joke from Bugsy just a little while ago. I guess I could tell it. Maybe not. Maybe I'll hold off on that. So we'll see how it works out. Oh, you know what? Hey, Doc, when we get Bergie back on here, I'll be sure to mention you to him, too. Yeah. And we have over here, we have the great Doc Batselier, who is, well, you are great. Yeah, I mean, he's one of the guys that's really kind of preserving old motorcycles and motorcycle racing. And you run up in New England every now and then, too, don't you? Except for Vietnam, you're there every year. Wow, amazing. See, it's guys like this that have the love for the sport, and you want to keep that history going, and you want to be able to teach the kids, get them excited about what happened before, and they can compare it to what's going on now. So I think it's one of the big challenges that racing has in general is to get the kids excited. So we're doing our part, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Now we can do a little break for one of our sponsors. There we go. I'm trying to get it out. Yeah. I keep thinking about Christmas coming up. I'm all excited. Okay, we'll be back in just a minute.
The caution flag is out. Time for a break. We'll be right back with the Legends of Racing radio show. Racing's original North Turn is our broadcast headquarters. If you're looking for a good drink, great entertainment, and the best in food, they're right on the beach at Racing's original North Turn. Rhonda and Walt invite you to come on down to dinner tonight. Here are a couple of testimonials. These are actual testimonials from people who have enjoyed the North Turn. Been there many times, always great food and drinks, great location on the beach. And another, what a great experience. It's my new favorite restaurant in the Daytona Beach area, Racing's Original North Turn on South Atlantic Avenue. That's A1A in Ponce Inlet, about 3.2 miles south of the Dunlawton Bridge and A1A intersection. It's Racing's Original North Turn, a restaurant, museum, bar, gift shop, live music. That's Racing's North Turn. Racing's North Turn has been voted by you top 10 beach bar 7 years in a row. Next year, they're going for top 5. We're back from where it all began. Racing's Original North Turn Beach Bar and Grill. The Legends of Racing radio show continues with your host, Buz McKim.
Thank you very much. All right. Everybody gets a free French fry. Thank you so much. Anyway, this segment is being brought to you by the Daytona Flea and Farmers Market. Now, this is pretty cool. Our good old hometown flea and farmers market was just voted one of the top 5 flea markets in the country by USA Weekend. That's pretty darn good. So we definitely want to give those folks props. We appreciate all you do. It's been out there forever and ever and ever. In fact, when I was just a mere child, I used to do all the signs out there. And then once I quit painting the signs, it prospered. Is there a correlation there? I'm not too sure. Anyway, we got to give a shout out to one of our old buddies, and he's here every year during Speed Week, and he's a cohort of these two gentlemen here too. He's in sick bay right now, and he sure could use your prayers. He's one of the finest guys, another Hall of Fame member, Georgie Summers. And boy, we just love Georgie, and we sure hope he can get back here in time for Speed Week. How about a round of applause for George? When they opened that big Hall of Fame building in New Hampshire a year or two ago, George was one of the the first 4 or 5 to go into that building. You had Richie Evans and a few other folks, but that's how much everyone thought of George. So if you're listening, we're pulling for you there, buddy. Yep. He was pretty tough, wasn't he?
George was tough.
Mm-hmm.
And tough because of Ronnie Bouchard. That's
there you go.
That's who made George tough, and I guess George introduced Ronnie to Seekonk Speedway and said he never should have, because after the first couple of weeks he couldn't beat him anymore. So that was. But George was just a wonderful, wonderful guy. Great family man. Everything about George was super.
Yeah.
And his dad was the head of the American League Empires. I don't know if people know that. Bill Summers.
Really?
Yes, he was.
Holy cow.
In that last call against in the Dodger game against the Yankees with Yogi Berra, stealing home plate was Jackie Robinson. Bill Summers called him safe. Yogi Berra went nuts. So who was safe or who wasn't, Georgie has an opinion on it, and I don't think I better say it, but Bill Summers was Georgie's father.
I'll be darned. See, that's a little bit of trivia I had no idea.
Yes.
Isn't that something? Yeah, you know what Yogi said, when you come to a fork in the road, take it.
Take it.
Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? Amazing. So, did you guys ever participate in any other sports at all when you were growing up?
Well,
how about you, Bill? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Bill.
I was North State guard basketball.
Oh, no kidding.
I was the smallest guard in the state of Connecticut, and this was LL.
Yeah. I'll be darned.
I was only 5'6", and I shot a 30-foot two-hand set shot, which today would have been worth 3 points. Back then it was worth 2. And I averaged 22 points a game in my high school career.
That's incredible.
So it was.
Incredible.
I played with guys like Johnny Egan. I don't know if you know the name. Johnny became an all-pro in the NBA, and he was the other god. So.
Well, isn't that amazing? Well, like Bob Cousy wasn't very tall.
Bob Cousy, and there was a guy, Bill Sharman, and in high school they called me Harman Sharman. So that was a tribute.
There was a guy that used to play, I think he played for Charlotte. His name was Muggsy Bogues, and he was only about 5'2", 5'3", something like that. And he'd run between the legs
the
of all
little
the
guys
big
would
guys.
drive you nuts.
Yeah, you got to watch those little guys.
No.
Yeah, and the little girls, too.
The little girls.
They can be tough. They have this attitude, you know. Yeah. How about you, Ray?
I played in high school. I played both basketball and soccer. Actually,
Really?
when I started, soccer kind of was just coming to this country. Soccer was not, back in the late 50s, was not the sport it is today. And the coach liked to get us out there in a soccer field because it was good training for basketball. But once through high school, I didn't follow up at college at all. And I went to college, but I didn't play sports. And I still enjoy to play basketball a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you were really a pioneer in soccer going back that far. That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I can remember we had the Hungarian Revolution happened in 1955, I think, or 56, and a lot of Hungarians came to this country, and we had a Hungarian that went to our high school. He was just a magician with a soccer ball, and the rest of us didn't know what to do with it. And of course, nowadays soccer is a very popular sport in this country.
Yeah, I would say. Yeah, it's still. I don't know. It's still got a little ways to go yet, but it's getting big. I think you're going to need another generation or so before it really takes off. But
agreed, yes.
I'll tell you what, those guys are athletes. Oh, my gosh.
Yep.
I have a hard time climbing up the grandstand to watch the game, and those guys are running up and down all the time. It's just bizarre. I know my nephew, he was into lacrosse about 20 years ago when he was going to college, but I think that's kind of become a little bit more mainstream. But back then, that was kind of a rare sort of thing, lacrosse. Right. Yeah. I know that sometime at some racetracks over the years, boxing has been a big part of this of the racing program, right?
There were a few added attractions at the track for boxing matches. You don't see it as much today. Back in the olden days, it wasn't uncommon to have fisticuffs flying for one reason or another.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're getting back to Ronnie Bouchard. He had that thick New England accent. And, of course, he really brought a lot of fame to Massachusetts. He and Pete Hamilton both. But when he won that race at Talladega, that was phenomenal. And the way he did it with that three-way photo finish. Yeah. And then, they brought him in to be on a country music album with a lot of the NASCAR drivers. And it wasn't, I don't think it would win any Grammys. But it was so funny to hear Ronnie singing a country song with that Massachusetts accent. It just kind of, I don't know. It was a nice novelty, though, that's for sure.
The best.
Yeah, definitely. So would you still be involved in the sport if you had the opportunity?
Oh, certainly. I've lost both rotator cuffs, and I'm very weak with my arms, but if I could, I'd be working under a car today if I could. I just loved it. And, like Ray's very fortunate. He's in good shape, feeling good. Mm-hmm. He houses 4 race cars, maybe 5. Mm. He asked me to drive one this year, but I've got to give it a thought.
Oh, okay. Yeah, now, where do your cars compete?
Bugsy's going to drive one.
There you go. Yeah. Where do your cars compete, Ray?
Well, we're a USAC midget division in New England, and we race on dirt. We race Albany or Saratoga. Our home track is Bear Ridge Speedway in Bradford, Vermont. We also run over in New Hampshire Legion Speedway. And we're looking forward. We're hearing good things about this new quarter-mile track being built at the New Hampshire Speedway.
Great.
And my understanding is our division is going to get a tryout at it, and we're looking forward to giving a try there. Mm-hmm.
Did either one of you guys ever run the Milk Bowl?
The what? Come back with that?
Yeah, the Milk Bowl. Ken Squire put it on every year?
Thunder Road, we know of Thunder well. We raced Catamount, but I have never even seen the Milk Bowl.
Oh, okay.
That's at, you know that, Billy.
Yes.
You race there?
No, I never did.
Road?
No,
Thunder Road.
Thunder Road, I know I never did.
Yeah, it's one of the bigger races up in Vermont every year. Ken Squire put it on. I don't know if he does now. Oh, he is the best. But the deal is, if you win the race, you have to kiss a cow.
Yeah, kiss the cow.
Right on the lips.
Right on the lips, yeah.
So, I don't know. But if they give you a big old wheelbarrow full of money, I guess I'd kiss a cow too, right?
I kissed her, but I didn't know it was a cow.
All right, we're going to break just for a minute. We'll be right back after this word from our sponsor.
The caution flag is out. Time for a break. We'll be right back with the Legends of Racing radio show. At Beach Boys Embroidery and Tees, it's all about making you happy. Beach Boys Embroidery can customize your athletic golf apparel, caps, hats, badges, buttons, magnets, backpacks, bags, totes, clocks, watches, and of course, T-shirts. Sure, they're at 2033 South Ridgewood Avenue in South Daytona, and they're waiting for you to call now. 386-255-5880. Beach Boys Embroidery and Tees. We're back from where it all began. Racing's original North Turn Beach Bar and Grill. The Legends of Racing radio show continues with your host, Buz McKim.
Okay. Thank you very much, as Elvis would say. This segment is being brought to you locally by Jeep Beach. It's coming to Daytona National Speedway April 22nd through the 28th, 2019. Keep listening for information on a Richard Petty appearance and a tailgate event during Jeep Beach. Go to jeepbeach.com. It's going to be a heck of a big deal. And you see this picture of Richard. Yeah, we can't go into any details now, but there's some negotiating going on. And, we've been sitting here chattering for a while, and we have not gotten to what I think is one of the most important segments of the show. And we were hoping that Dr. Bergeron was going to come back on because we wanted to get his opinion, too. But we got a fella sitting right over here in the black jacket who is one of the, you talk about legends. This guy's a legend. 3 consecutive national modified championships, 67, 68, 69, when everybody, even the flag man was competitive back in those days, right? Well, Mr. Bug Stevens right there. Yep. Fantastic. He a Hall of Fame member. He ran some cup races back in the day. He ran some late model sportsman races at Daytona Speedway. There probably was nothing he wouldn't run, and there was no party he would not partake in, right? Yeah. I would love to have seen you and Richie Evans together. I bet that was good. Yeah? You think we'd lose our PG rating on that one there, Poobah? But this guy, amazing. You figure 3 consecutive championships back in those days when you're running against the best in the country. And now, Bugsy, did you do all those championships with Lenny Bowler's car? Okay. Yeah, that's that beautiful showpiece that we were talking about, right? Now, were they really as raggedy as they looked? Oh, okay. But they ran good, though, didn't they? Yeah. Now, isn't that something? Really, he made everything himself. Amazing. Well, we need to get you up here one day to have your very own show, and you can tell us all the stories. Would you consider that, being on our show? You got it. Okay. We're going to take up a collection for gas money, and we're going to have Bugsy up here for his own show. We would be honored. That'd be super duper. And got it. Broccoli? I can get you some broccoli. Oh, I don't. Oh, there is no effing broccoli. Oh, that's what. Yeah.
Bugsy, you can't tell that story. If anybody's going to tell it, it'll be me because you don't do it.
Man, I fell into that one. Holy cow! See, that's a good thing about telling jokes to people who are not too smart. Yeah, you always come out looking really good. Oh, jeez. So, did you have any heroes growing up, Ray?
Well, I don't know. You mentioned a driver in the Hall of Fame, Bill Schindler. And being an infant, going with my dad, only 6, 7 years old, around the midgets. They used to run 7 nights a week in New England. And as a kid, you don't really remember a lot. But the one thing that stood out, and I can see him today, at that age, when you saw a guy coming out with his crutches to walk out to get loaded into the car, and then he'd hand the crutches to his crewman, and you saw he didn't have a leg. That stood out, and it just stayed in my mind. It stays in my mind today. And that fella, of course, he got killed in later years, but what a midget driver he was. He drove that famed Mike Caruso Deuce, which was probably one of the more famous midgets in the country. But I remember Bill Schindler was a great driver.
He was a tough cookie.
Yeah.
And how about you, Billy?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Maybe the names of Bill stood out for being a fan. It was Bill Schindler and Bill Vukovich.
Oh,
that
gosh, yeah.
Two of the guys that I liked. And, of course, A.J. Foyt, who wasn't a fan of A.J. Foyt's.
Yeah.
I was even a fan of Bugsy's.
Oh. You were a fan of Bugsy's?
And Leo Cleary. Yes,
really?
I was. When I was a kid growing up, Leo Cleary was the hero of the modified racing. I was only in high school.
Yeah.
And a little story about Leo. He'd run 4 different divisions a night at Norwood Arena. He'd compete in 4. He won 3 out of 4 several times, but he got in a fight with everybody in that division at least once a night, so Leo had 4 fights a night on top of all the racing. Yeah, I think he won them all, too.
Oh, gotta love it. Now, did you guys ever run Pocono?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I ran. I did have a good run at Poco in 1982. I finished third to. I forget if Greg Sachs won or Richie. They were 1-2. I was third. I had a nice run there. I ran there at the 3/4 mile. You can't see it today because it's not there anymore. But they used to have a 3/4 mile that used part of the straightaway, and it turned into where the pit area was, and we made a 3/4 mile out of it. So I did run there, and we also ran the modifieds, believe it or not, 2 different years on the 2.5 miles.
Yes,
Wow,
And
really?
I did get into warm-ups. I lost an engine, and I never was able to compete any further, but I did make a few laps at the 2.5 mile. Was that straightaway, that home straightaway, just it never ended.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you run?
Yes, I also did run the 2.5 mile track with Teddy Marsh's car. And I was out there thinking, I'm the fastest guy on this racetrack. I'm flying. Jeff Bodine went by me on the outside like I was stopped. And it took the wind right on.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Jeff went on to win it, I believe.
Did he really? It looks like you really have to crank it left to get into that first turn. Is that first turn pretty tight?
You were going down that front straightaway like, do I really want to do this? You know, it was something.
Oh, man. Now, did aerodynamics play a part when you were running on that track?
It probably did. We didn't have them. The coupes, boy, the air was up underneath you. The car had a personality of its own. It would go down that front straightaway from left to right, and you just kind of holding on. And it was scary.
Oh, my gosh. Do you use the brakes very much there?
You had to use them getting into one, I know, pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty bizarre. How about Trenton? I always thought it would be
Trenton's
kind of weird going down that backstretch, how you'd have to crank to the right to get into the third and fourth turn. Was that kind of hard to get used to?
It was, for me it was. I liked the mile track. The mile track was wonderful. But the dog leg going, what it was the week before we were there, the Indy cars were there, so they laid down a lot of rubber, and we could see just the position to be in. But going through that dog leg was tricky. It was tough.
The hard thing about the dog leg, in my mind, was you had a blind spot. Once you started into that dog leg, you didn't know if somebody was sideways and stalled or spun.
Holy
and
cow.
you kind of went through there blind to a degree, and I don't know if anything ever really happened to it, but you had to really pay attention because it was a blind spot, Billy.
Yes,
Remember
it
that?
certainly was. You didn't know once you get on that turn if there's going to be somebody sideways in front of you.
Golly.
Because you could not see him. And, you know, Oswego is about the same way, Ray, and you ran good at Oswego.
Yeah.
Oh, is that all? Okay. There goes the rating right there.
There goes the rating.
That's right.
Well, what he's saying, Buzz, is a lot of the guys would go through that turn without
Flat out,
lifting.
yeah.
Oh,
Those were the guys with the you-know-what, and then the rest of us maybe feathered it, lifted off. You didn't hit the brake, but to go through that flat down, and Bugsy was one of them that did it along with many others, but
Wow.
that took a little nerve.
man, that's bizarre. Yeah, that's like they were talking about Daytona, and I think it was Jimmy Thompson that said Daytona separated the boys from the men, and no, he said, forget about the boys from the men. It separated the brave from the weak after the weak went home. And it was just something kind of crazy. But, you know, when they first saw Daytona, they took a big gulp and said, do we really want to do this? And
You really want to do this.
yeah, do you ever get that point? Like, what am I doing here?
I certainly did, yes. Going down that front straightaway at Trenton, not at Trenton, I'm sorry, at the Poconos, you did talk to yourself sometimes.
Well, we're going to take one more break here real quick from our lovely sponsors. We thank them for supporting us, and we'll be right back to wrap this up.
The caution flag is out. Time for a break. We'll be right back with the Legends of Racing Radio Show. Welcome to the Janet Hale Foundation website. With this website, we hope to broaden our reach, to find someone like you to help us on our journey. Janet's journey started 40 years ago to ensure that all children had a toy under the tree at Christmas. Today, thousands of toys and clothing are donated for underprivileged kids. We need your help to continue our journey. Tour this website and find the Donate Now button. A small gesture can make a big difference in a young life. We need your help. Visit us on Facebook, Janet Hale Foundation, or call 386-256-0752. We're back from where it all began, racing's original North Turn Beach Bar and Grill. The Legends of Racing radio show continues with your host, Buz McKim.
Thank you very much, everyone. Do appreciate that. Broadcasting here from the North Turn Restaurant. You guys got to get here. I don't know what they're cooking, but for this whole show, I've been going crazy, smelling something awesome. Maybe hamburgers or something. I'm not sure, but man, as soon as we're done here, I'm in there. I'm scarfing up whatever I can. Yeah, I don't care what it costs. So anyway, we were just linking the past with the future, talking about all the great talent that's out there now among the kids, and Ray was saying that fella right there, that Richard Burleson kid right there, he looks like he could be a race driver. He's got that all-American clean-cut look and everything. Yeah, it's hard to believe, but he's actually a gang member from Los Angeles. No, I'm just kidding. He's a good kid. We're honored to have him here, too. So now we're talking about New England is still full of talent, and I think one of the prime examples is Ryan Preece. Man, is he coming along. He came out of nowhere, and I think he's going Cup next year.
Yes,
and
he is.
Now, you guys have had experience with his family, haven't you?
I certainly have. I drove for Bobby in the 2X car way back in the day in the early 60s. And I had first met Ryan it was in someplace in Maine, and he was in a midget. 15 years old, never been in a midget in his life. He was in a ball stream, he's a good midget. And I asked him how he was going. He says, pretty good. And he says, don't be surprised if I win this thing. 15 years old.
Oh, isn't that amazing?
He finished fourth.
Yep.
Bobby Santos won it, and Erica was second, I think.
Jeez. So his grandfather is Bobby Judkins.
Bobby Judkins' grandpa,
yeah. Eddie Flemke drove that car for a while?
Eddie Flemke, oh, certainly. We worked with Flemke. And
yes. Oh, before we go any further, I've got a little announcement to make, too. Now, this segment is being brought to you locally by the Olive Oil Company in Granada Plaza, Ormond Beach. And they're now promoting a plaza-wide toy drive for the Janet Hale Foundation. The toy drive ends this Sunday. So if you're up in Ormond and you're right there around the A1A area, swing on by and drop a toy off in one of the boxes in front of all the different businesses, and you will feel fantastic. Christmas isn't about what you get, it's about what you give. And that's where the real happiness comes from, right? So anything y'all want to give us up here, you'll feel good, and we'll feel pretty good too, right? Yeah, okay. Just don't throw anything.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't think racing is in real trouble as far as the amount of talent. I just saw today where A.J. Allmendinger is going to be a commentator now. He's not going to be getting a ride for next year. Guys like Trevor Bain, people like that, Jamie McMurray, these guys who have not really performed. I mean, they've been on, up at the top level, but you still have to perform. And there's so much talent coming along now, and they're establishing their own identities. And I think it'll continue to grow, I hope. And, I'm sure there's no doubt that NASCAR is going to keep going. But you have to perform. And that's the big thing, too. I guess it was like that when you were running, too. You have to perform. It
certainly was. If you didn't perform, you didn't get maybe the ride you hope you might get. But performing is the name of the game. That's why Kyle Busch, I think, is NASCAR's best.
Yeah.
He performs every week.
Yep.
And just like Ray performed every week. That's why he's who he is.
There you go. Now, when did you decide to hang up the helmet there, Ray?
Well, I retired from stock cars in 1986, and a lot of people don't realize this, Buzz, and perhaps you don't, but in 2011, my girlfriend decided to buy a midget race car, and I drove for 6 years on the dirt.
Really?
In my 60s. I
Oh.
did get 2 feature wins up at Bear Ridge Speedway.
Oh, man.
And what prompted me to get into it, I went to a little track in Westfield, Mass, Whip City Speedway, and you may have heard of Denny Zimmerman. He was one of the original Eastern Bandits that used to travel up and down the East Coast with Flemke, Redfoot, and Charlene. But Denny's a little older than me, and he was out there having a ball, and I said to myself, if he can do it, he's got 2 years on me, I'm going to get in shape. And so I went back to it for driving for 6 years. Now I'm out of the driving part, and I do own the midgets, and I have a bunch of good kids driving for me, Buzz.
Well, that's great. And it's great. What do you use for power in those midgets?
I use either a General Motors Quad 4 or a Ford Focus on alcohol. About 210 horse, but the cars only weigh 1,000 pounds. The first time I drove one, I couldn't believe the acceleration on them, but a lot of fun at a recent at a decent price.
Yeah, that's the thing. Now, is the alcohol for the car or for the car owner? Just checking. You never knew any race drivers that drank, did you, Billy?
Excuse me?
You never knew any race drivers that drank, did you?
Not too many of them. Well, I can tell you one that didn't was Rainey Charland, and a lot of people thought Rainey might have.
Really?
Rainey, no, wouldn't touch a drink. But a few of them might have had a few pops every now and then.
Yeah, medicinal purposes, right?
Look at Bugsy's taking a note from everyone.
Well, yeah, boys got to have fun, right?
Oh, we had nobody had the fun in modified racing than we had.
We did. We had a lot of fun back in the days.
That's the key, fun.
Exactly.
I had Georgie Pendergast with me, and the most fun we could have had. It was almost like Bouchard and Summers, that team. Nothing but fun.
Wow.
Good fun.
Yeah, if it's not fun, you don't want to do it, right?
No.
Well, we're going to be wrapping up here in a minute, but I have to give a shout out to some of our illustrious crew. And we have Shane over here. He's the Volt. He's our engineer. Love old Shane. Absolutely. Yep. And we have our, could we call you bouncer or security or what? Anything at all? Okay. Well, that's little brother Joe. Yeah, absolutely. And then we have the matriarch over here, Alma McKim. She's that's my dear mother, and she's known as the Betty White of auto racing. And then we have the Grand Poobah, Mike over here. Yeah, he's the guy who handles the purse strings. And our Betty Crocker, our lady who gives us all our munchies and our good sweet stuff after the show, she's not here this week. So our good friend Don White decided he was going to help us out, and he brought the snackies himself. Thank you very much, Don. Yeah, we're going to have to come up with a shirt for you now. And is Skip still here? There's Skip. Skip over here. He's known as the...
He's a Connecticut guy.
Yeah, Connecticut guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's known as the Hitman. Yeah, I don't know where he got that from. I don't know if I want to know, but I'm sure the statute of limitations has run out, right? Yeah. And then I got a new nickname last week. I am The Buzz. Yeah, with a capital B. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a long story, but I'll have to tell you about it one of these days. And, of course, my beloved bride over there, the Buzz Boss. Hello, Gwendolyn. How are you? She's the one that tries to keep me straight and narrow. And we have Rhonda in the back there, the lovely lady who owns this fantastic place. She is known as our assistant field director. And then her better half, wait a minute. Yeah, I guess he's a better half, don't you think? Walt, he's our roadie. And together, they guys have given us a place to play here every week, and we're so thankful for their assistance. And how about a big shout out for Ray Miller and Billy Harman, Hall of Fame members and Northeast legends, and we're so thankful that you guys are here today. Much obliged.
Well, we were happy to be here, Buzz. We enjoyed it.
Oh, that's super. And we're going to have a surprise guest next week. Keep an eye on Facebook, and you'll know who it is. And let's see. Make sure you leave your address so we know where to send the checks to, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, okay, great.
This time of the year, it's going to come in very handy.
Oh, good, okay. Yeah, well, you might be able to buy a pack of Juicy Fruit with it.
I hope so.
We'll see. Anyway, thank you very much, folks. Have a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next week. Thank you. Take care.
The Legends of Racing radio show originates live from the very spot where beach racing began, Racing's North Turn Beach Bar and Grill. Join us next time for the Legends of Racing radio show with Buz McKim.